Hey guys, welcome to our music show. One second, we are having some issues with the background, so I'm gonna try to fix that real quick on OBS right now. Sorry about that. Should be getting fixed up now. There we go, we're perfect. I do want a little bit of music in the background for this show. And me pretty well. I'm gonna turn myself up a little bit just so you can hear me a little bit better. Hopefully this should be a good amount of audio. Just gonna tweak up some audio real quick. Hopefully I sound good for everybody. Hello, my name is Liam. Welcome to the Music Den. This is gonna be our kind of weekly, probably bi-weekly music show that we'll do on Saturdays. For this show, I kind of just wanted it to be me and explain what we want from the show. Once again, I appreciate all the support. If you have been liking the videos, please drop a like and follow. Subscription, or drop a sub. Please share as well to any social medias. We are going to be working on the multi-stream, probably today and tomorrow, to get that figured out. Hopefully we could get streaming on Facebook. That would make us pretty popular and easy to get the word out. Hopefully you guys like the overlays. The overlays, like for this one, isn't as busy as the sports show or the news show. It doesn't need to be. This is all about music, sorry. And I'm actually going to turn up the lo-fi in the background. But I'm just going to have it a lot lower than me on the actual OBS. So hopefully that should help with everything. First, I kind of want to talk about what I expect this show to be. And kind of like for the sports show, this show is going to be more relaxed. I've kind of switched up my settings. I need to fix up my background because like some stuff is showing, but that's fine by me. This show shouldn't be too long. It's just going to be a big introduction show, as well as me going over some topics, not all topics. And like I said before, we should have guests coming eventually. I'm going to find people. I have a lot of friends that are very good at certain things, and this will be one of them, talking about music, because we all love music and we all have different tastes, which is fantastic. Let me take a sip real quick. And basically this would be a show to review old and new music and kind of talk about new music to listen to. This week we probably won't have too many people to listen to, new people. I didn't really have that much time to research. I do like listening to newer music, but it's very rare that I do. I'm mostly an old timer when it comes to that. So, kind of one of the reasons why we're doing this show is that over the last week I got to see Steven Van Zandt in Youngstown, basically for a seminar he was doing about his life and everything. Steven Van Zandt was one of the founding members of the E Street Band, and he also played Silvio Dante in The Sopranos, which I love. The Sopranos, it's a good show. A lot to learn from that. It's kind of interesting seeing how a man could go from playing guitar to acting. Sorry, and he eventually kind of went back to music as well, and kept doing music. Has his own solo stuff. He made music for Nelson Mandela to get him out. He was talking a lot about that and some of the people he got to meet. But he has a radio show about music, and it's something that I was thinking about, even like doing before. That's kind of why I didn't do a video game stream this week. Like, well, one, I could only do it on Twitch, or I need to get a capture card and run it through my computer, which I could do eventually. But I'd rather do a music show for right now. A lot of people play video games. You could watch people playing the video games. I'd be playing like Fallout and Marvel Rivals and Call of Duty. That stuff you could watch anywhere. But music's kind of like a different take, especially local music. Like for local radio stations are kind of different, and it sucks, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot with talk radio and music. At the same time that streaming was becoming more popular, so you have to be able to do it both ways and be able to go live on YouTube, go live on the radio if that's what you want. I do see a lot of people doing that too, so that's great. But I haven't really seen that many shows about actual music and about just talking about it and what we like, local people, stuff like that. We'll probably have whole local episodes, like Ohio episodes and then Youngstown episodes in the future, which I think would be really good. Like I went to school in the University of Akron for a bit, and the Black Keys are from there. They're a very good band. I really like the Black Keys and that type of indie rock that they do. So yeah, that's basically it. We kind of want like a young local news, radio show. Just like with news, it's kind of nice to get a young, fresh take. Like basically everyone on these shows are going to be younger than 35. I'm younger than 30. Same with Tommy and Hunter. Same with Trevor. So our main shows are basically young guys that are educated. I'm an engineer. Tommy's a lawyer. Trevor's a nurse. So it's kind of interesting how in the topics we'll be talking about, we are very educated in what we do for schooling and what we do in our everyday life. Just my experience, I've probably built in over 10, probably 15 states now in commercial land development or retail land development, industry. Now I work more, like I said before, on the news, so on the municipal side. I don't work for a municipality, I work for a private company. And I kind of like this. I kind of want this to be a modern take on these old news stations that they don't really do anymore. Let me turn up the music a little bit. I want to make sure we're hearing some of the music in the background, so hopefully that's good. That may have took until now, but at least now I know for the future. And how, like we were saying before, it's kind of hard for independent guys like me, even Shannon Sharp, if a news show, like we were talking about on the sports show, to get like clips. It's hard to get like music because everything gets copyrighted. How YouTube, all these streaming, even Facebook, Twitch, they have these algorithms, and they've had them for a decade now that just go through every stream, every channel, every video, and sees if there's copyright music. It's pretty easy with algorithms and AI. But they could just figure it out because like all that music's online. They could search for the lyrics to computer. It's pretty easy to find out. And like YouTube's owned by Google, so they're very good with computers and server-based things. So like we won't be able to play music like an actual radio station that has like the licensing contracts with like Warner Brothers and Sony and all the guys that make music. But we'll be able to talk about it, and I think that's important. And like we'll have this lo-fi copyright-free music in the background, but we could always, I feel like it's a talk and like a conversation that we'll be having, so we could listen to music later. Kind of like a book club, but for music. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. I'll make sure to mute myself. And like I was kind of saying before, I like to go back and forth. That's just how my brain works. Saturdays are going to be a little bit of a toss-up of what we'll do. We'll probably have days off on future Saturdays once it's nice out. Today's not a nice day. It's getting nicer now, so I could take for half an hour to make this stream. I want to get some YouTube videos up here and get just some conversations going and some hype going around the channel. So like I said before, I'd really hope and really like if you guys could like and share, subscribe. That really helps. I know once we get on Facebook, we should be getting a lot more popular. I have a lot more people on Facebook that could rather watch on Facebook than watching on YouTube. But with our younger generation, we know like we watch YouTube all the time. A lot of gamers and nerds, they watch Twitch all the time. So we'll get Twitch up there, but I think YouTube's probably the best right now, especially for the talk shows we're doing and how we get upload. You can watch on YouTube after. I do recommend, if you have YouTube Premium, it's kind of worth it because you could listen to stuff in the background. And like, even when I'm working, I used to listen to a lot of music. I used to have like 50,000 hours on Spotify every year. Even when I'm at home, I listen to a lot of music. Now it's kind of switched to half music, half YouTube, where I like educating myself on things. So I watch a lot, I listen to a lot of documentaries while I'm working and doing stuff around the house. I have a very multitask type of brain, so it's very good, at least for me, to have that. First, now we're actually finally going to get into the music type of conversations, which I'm really excited for. We'll be talking about what type of music I personally like. Um, Personally, I like all types of music. I like everything except modern country, and even then, like, I could deal with some modern country. It's just like with a lot of pop music and even some rock, it's become so overproduced, and you could tell that they have tons of sound engineers and producers producing this stuff. And like when you actually know how to play a guitar or a bass, I've been playing guitar and bass since I was very young, but I taught myself how to play bass when I was like 14. Um, no, I know a little bit of piano, but guitar I kind of was off and on. I think since I was like 7 or 8. But I really got into the bass when I was 14. I taught myself. I know how to read bass clef, and I kind of like really went at it. It's something I really do, and it's something I still do, and I really enjoy doing. 1 second. Sorry about that. But like right now, and like kind of we'll go for a story about that. When I started, I used to play a lot of jazz basses. That's what I started on, like some old Squire jazz bass. That was actually really nice because I think it was like one of like special ones that had like Seymour Duncan pickups. And it was kind of like the '60s jazz bass look with a tortoiseshell pickguard and a sunburst, which I like. And like learning on a jazz bass is good. But as I grew older, I got into more punk music. And when you like punk music, not many people play jazz basses. Really, the only one I could think of is Flea. And like all of them sometimes play a jazz bass, but really when they get into it, and a lot of recording basses play a P bass anyway, a precision bass from Fender or a jazz bass from Fender. And people like other brands too. A lot of punk guys like Music Man's, and everyone has their brand. But personally, being a bass fan and being a punk rock fan, you just see a lot of P basses. You see like Mark Hoppus with his special P bass. Same with Mike Dirnt from Green Day. Mark Hoppus is from Blink 182. Um, Mikey Way played a Mustang bass, but a lot of the times he played a P bass even recording, because it's the cleanest sounding bass to record, especially when you compress it. Um, and then after that, so I ended up getting like another Squire P bass. I ended up getting a used American P bass, like a '99 model or '98. And right now I have, I think it's like a 2017. I have to check. It's Fender's 25th anniversary, so it might be like 2019. But I have a used P bass right now. That's the American, the standard model. Because with a P bass, like it's not like a jazz bass. Like to me, like you don't need it to be too fancy. Even a jazz bass, you don't need to be too fancy. That's what's nice about Fenders, and it's kind of how you use pedals. If you got compressors and distortion and overdrives, whatever you want to make it have a good time and sound good, those pedals are gonna help you more than the bass itself. Having an active bass is nice, but I really think, kind of like talking about before, it really only matters with a jazz bass. Having an active P bass is cool, but how just how a P bass kind of works, it's already noiseless, and like having the active side of it doesn't really help too much. It helps with loudness, but that really is what helps with a jazz because you're gonna slap on it. You're not really gonna slap on a P bass. But a lot of people do like to slap on jazz basses, and having an active jazz bass helps with that. That's why people like are competitive with the Music Mans and all of their stuff. So it really depends. What the other type of music I like is just very wide. Kind of what I have here. I have from Bach to Gunnar, like Tchaikovsky or however you say his name, and like Wagner. In school, I took a classic history to rock class, so I did get to learn a lot of classic music like Vivaldi. And every year I like going to Blossom because they have the outside Cleveland Orchestra. I've seen the Cleveland Orchestra at Severance Hall in Cleveland, or for good acoustics, but I personally like the outdoor venue more. Excuse me. So I could hang out and be outside on the lawn, bring some wine and chairs, and have a great time. Um, but I also really like Johnny Cash, like some of these older guys, which we'll talk about here in a bit, because we're about 20 minutes in. I started about 5 minutes later, so we're 15 minutes in the show. We'll only go about 30 minutes. I don't want to have too long of a show and make people afraid of that, especially for our first show. I think a 30-minute one would be fine, probably a little bit less, especially just me. So now we're gonna go into what music I like. Like we were talking about before. I want to talk about my favorite older artists and albums, but this is a wide variety. I could have spent hours on this, so we're gonna go a little bit, kind of just like for overall guys. Um, I do like Willie Nelson a lot. I've seen him, and I like the old Highwaymen with Waylon Jennings, him and Johnny Cash, the other guys. It was just like really good music at a good time. Growing up, I listened to a lot of it. My parents had the live album of Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson on VHS. I think it was on like VHS. Was a company that it was like on TV for too. Um, but Johnny Cash I like as well. His American 4 I think is one of the best albums before he passed. Making a lot of covers. How he sounds after losing June Carter. You could really tell how hurt he was. Like he sings in Hurt. Like he sings in all of them. Some of these covers are so good. And like even like You Are My Sunshine is a great song on that album. But to me, even a lot of his older stuff was interesting. And like I love One Piece at a Time. Obviously, everyone loves like Folsom Prison Blues. But I'll have to pull up on my phone like Cocaine. I think it's called like some Cocaine Blues song he does. Cocaine Blues, live at Folsom State Prison. Very good song. If I Were a Carpenter, I love that song. Me and my girlfriend sing that song. It's a classic song, and it has a great... Like, without that song, we would never have, in The Sopranos, when Michael pulls up to that construction site and says, if I were a carpenter, and you were a douchebag, which is great. Like, him saying that's hilarious to this fucking day, and I'm sorry for swearing, but it's true. Like, that's just a funny quote. I could see me saying that pulling up on a job site now, and not getting in trouble, but having some old guys being mad. So like Streets of Ladeo, Desperado, Danny Boy, In My Life, We'll Meet Again on a Johnny Cash album. Girl from the North Country, which he sings with Bob Dylan. When he sings One, like I said, One Piece at a Time. American Remains with the Highwaymen, Against the Wind, Men in Black's a classic, but like I've Been Everywhere, One Piece at a Time. The Ballad of Ira Hayes, Daddy Sing Bass, all classic songs. Daddy Sing Bass is a really good song because not many people know like that. That's an old black song. I think it's called like The Circle, like because like The Circle won't be broken. It's something they sang in church, and a lot of country guys like it. And Johnny Cash had his rendition of Daddy Sing Bass for it. Willie Nelson, I'll have to. Oh man, so many good ones as well. I'll look on. So, Willie Nelson to me, like him and Waylon Jennings had a very good voice for the time, and like we'll never see that again in country. And like I was saying before, that's kind of why I don't like modern country, is because you could tell it's overproduced and they're not writing the music. It all has the same theme. And yes, back in the day, country, it was all cowboy themed, but it had a lot more story into it. And people like Johnny Cash, people like Willie Nelson, who really had to fight, not many people know, Johnny Cash's first wife was black and had to deal a lot with that. Now, she wasn't fully black, she was mixed, but this because of the times they've experienced, and they went through a lot of racism because of that, and he talked a lot about that as well. Where Johnny Cash with Waylon Jennings has Mama Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, which is a classic. Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground. I've seen Willie live, like I said, I just loved it. Just Breathe, which is a Pearl Jam, another great band cover. Both beautiful renditions. Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, classic. Poncho and Lefty, another one. On the Road Again. When we were talking about Johnny Cash, I love American Remains. That song has a lot of story to it. He has a good Georgia on My Mind, our song, Denver, I Gotta Get Drunk, always on my mind. I like Buddy a lot. If you've watched Parks and Rec, you know Buddy. That song's in it when Ron Swanson is like paddling his boat in his canoe at the last episode. Just beautiful scene. Beautiful song to pick for that series, I feel like. Willie Nelson is one of the goats in country. Now, I kind of want to talk about something else, and because it is March and last month was February, this month is Women History Month, we will be talking about some women in music, even modern women or past women. But with Black History Month and African American History Month being last month, even though the feds don't believe in that anymore, I still believe in it, and we're going to talk about it. Without um, black people and the Appalachian just type of music they had from blues and their own type of country, white people wouldn't have modern country and the stuff we believe in. Growing up, I listened to a lot of Ray Charles, people like Muddy Waters. I loved B.B. King, the album he has, like Kings of the Highway or whatever it's called, with Eric Clapton, Kings of the Road. That's a great album. Two guys that really know how to pluck the shit out of a guitar, and they just go very well together. And some of the music those guys have are great. And Eric Clapton's not a great guy. Killed his kid. I think he's racist. But, like, that's good music. And like I'm saying before, separate from that. People like B.B. King. I loved Marvin Gaye growing up. Louis Armstrong. Because in 7th grade, we read a story about Louis Armstrong and how he saved up all this money to buy a used trumpet in Louisiana, in New Orleans, where he was from. And his mom was going broke, and he had to give his mom the money for gumbo and for dinner, rather than buying the trumpet he was saving like 3 to 6 months for, maybe even 8 months as a young kid. And it really shows how he was as a person. And the story, he ends up getting a trumpet anyway. I don't know, I think his mom ends up like getting a good job or better job and is able to afford, like, for, you know, this is, I think back in the 20s, like a $2 trumpet, probably what it was at the time, maybe $1, or maybe like the store owner gave it to him. But it was just a great story. And some of his music, La Vie en Rose, I even remember in like junior high putting that in PowerPoints, because it's just a beautiful song. And some of the stuff he was able to do with that is just great. And watching these people, kind of like when we were talking about that church music before, Ray Charles I love. I like Stevie, but personally, that's how I am. I like Ray's music a little bit more, being that little bit more church swing music. And at the time, they didn't like that. That's a great movie, Ray. There's a reason why Jamie Foxx won the Oscar for that movie, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He did a great job. It's a great story. Ray Charles, even though he wasn't really a good guy either, he kind of hated fat women, had his own, I don't know if it was racial issues, but also had some drug issues. It's hard. And I kind of like, if you're blind and being a musician, I mean, there's guys with heroin issues that aren't blind. You know, Mick Jagger or whatever from the Stones. So, or whoever the guitarist is. I'm blanking out on that one. But going back to it, like, hearing these stories and this music, it really influences us. And personally, I just liked it more. Listening to Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, the song and the whole album, is just a mind opener. And just to, like, listen to that song. Whenever we have troubles in America, modern times, I like to listen to that song and really think about how things used to be back in the day. You know what I mean? In Vietnam and Rodney King, like, we've went through a lot of stuff. George Floyd. The fact that George Floyd happened and we still had protests and cities still had issues, but it was nothing. Like, a lot of people like to forget about the past, but if you watch documentaries about the LA riots, it is just, it's crazy. And some of the stuff that went on was crazy. From the rooftop Koreans protecting their businesses to just what happened to some people in the streets. I don't really want to talk about it. This isn't the show to talk about it. But the fact that people like Marvin Gaye and a lot of these music people talked about it, especially at that time, you know, rappers talked about it. R&B talked about it. Blues everyone talked about it. I'm trying to think some other guys that I like. But there's a ton of them. So we should really, like, listen to them when we can and throw them into our music. Marvin Gaye is great. Like I said, anytime you're going through a rough time or you feel like we're having a rough time socially, listen to what's going on in that whole album. Listen to some of his other music. Obviously, he's known for sexual music, but he made good music for times and being social about it and trying to speak out. And this kind of ties into older rap because older rap talked about it a lot. And so does modern rap. And we'll kind of be talking about that a little bit. Where personally, I'm a very big Christopher Wallace, Notorious B.I.G. fan. Growing up, I was a little bit bigger, so I kind of like the big boy rap. Kind of like how like Big Zaw right now, hopefully that's how you say his name, the plug from Texas who just got in trouble for having weed. Big rappers I kind of like as a bigger person. Even now that I'm skinnier, I like bigger rappers. They have a different voice, a more heavier voice, like Biggie or Rick Ross, Big Zaw. But Biggie and like his story and how he rapped, to me was a lot like what Tupac wanted to be all the time. And Tupac made some great music, like Changes and Dear Mama. I think Tupac was a better lyricist. I'll give that up. But I think Biggie was a better rapper, straight up. He was a better freestyle. And how he spit and some of the rhymes he put together is better than being a cultural lyricist. But I will give that to Tupac. He was 100% more of a cultural lyricist. When Biggie was making it more about beats and rap itself, how it sounded, how it went off each other, rather than how does this sound to a cultural aspect and how do I open up people's eyes. That's still important. People like NWA, Naughty by Nature, I like a lot. All those old school groups. Some of them really talked about what needed to be talked about. Obviously NWA with F the Police and other songs. There's a lot of NWA songs I listen to, but I don't really want to say. But talk a lot about how with dope dealing and stuff they had to do growing up and living in that area, it kind of goes a lot into like modern rap, and to me how you can't blame the people for other people putting them in that situation. So us as for controllers, or I'm not saying I'm not a controller, but for people who control people, it's their fault, not for people that are living there. Just like with white people in trailer parks that have issues too with meth or other drugs, you can't blame poor people in the cities for having issues too. Everyone would have that issue if they were there, and we put them there. We redlined the districts and redlined the cities and gave them the poorest and worst condition land value property areas. So it was going to happen. I already kind of talked about older country versus modern country, but I do wish modern country, had a little bit more like story to it and actual like feeling. You could tell when Willie was talking about being sad, Johnny Cash was talking about being sad. You know, it's true. And we're kind of like, I kind of forgot about talking about Willie. Like Willie, here's a great documentary on Paramount Plus. He spent years, I think 6 years, in basements in Nashville, probably longer, writing for people. That's how Dolly Parton loves him so much, because she did the same thing, and she was in the same basement writing with Willie. And she's like, Willie was always a hard worker, grinding lyrics all night. So she gets it. Like, Willie has written a lot of her songs, a lot of other people's songs in country, and that's how, when he was able to get his chance in country, he was able to do what he wanted. And kind of like what we're seeing now, and I kind of did want to talk about this, there's always going to be outlaws in country, and we shouldn't try to fight them. When people were mad about Beyonce winning the country music album of the year, they don't know history. If you tell people, hey, you know Country Roads, that literally it says country in it, every country lover knows, like the back of their dick or back of their hand, Country Roads is technically a folk song, and John Denver is a folk singer, like Bob Dylan. And we'll be talking about Bob Dylan. But when that song came out, John Denver won Country Song of the Year for it, because they didn't have a folk category, and folk music was new coming out. Back then, you could look it up. The country fans were pissed. They were like, this isn't a country song. This is too hippie. This has too much this and this and this. It's folk. It's a little bit different. If you know music, you know folk's a little bit different than country. But all types of music are evolving. That's why, like, just like when Lil Nas came out. Like, yes, but the reason why I kind of agree with rap and hip-hop is because I was saying before, country's becoming so overproduced, it's basically like rap and hip hop. Some I've been to weddings and heard this country music that's more hip hop based. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I personally actually love it, but not that many people who aren't into that or like know how to square dance don't know that they're actually putting trap beats into country music so they could actually dance. And not like you could dance with country music, it's just way better to dance with trap or hip hop music or rap music. So music's ever evolving, so you shouldn't be afraid that Beyonce won country album of the year, just like when John Denver won country song of the year. It's always evolving. So like there will probably be a time where rap and country will have its own genre that will be like hip hop. Like it's already a genre they talk about, but like mainstream on the Grammys, they might not call it hip hop because hick's not like the most PC word, but they might call it something different, and that's okay. But like eventually, like you do have to realize there is a difference. Like obviously, like Lil Nas X and Beyonce's newest album, I've listened to most. I'm pretty sure I listened to all of it, and I kind of liked it. But it's mostly pop mixed with country. That's not listening to Johnny Cash. But when you listen to Willie Nelson, but when you listen to people like Morgan Wallen, you could tell that's overproduced crap. And I liked Brad Paisley for the most part, but now he's getting more overproduced, and a lot of them are. Because once you get big, it's easier to have them software engineers and audio engineers and producers work for you and help you out rather than being creative. And I do think those guys help, but I do think being creative and doing your own thing is better. People like Willie wasn't listening to his audio engineer. Back in the day, they had one guy that pressed a button on the whole key track or trackboard, and he was just recording. Now, some audio engineers do help. They learn, like with Frankie Valli. They say, oh my god, this guy has a high voice. Let's dub it. That's smart. And that basically set a whole new future. I'm going to take a quick breather for my vape and a drink, and I'm going to see how much time we've been going right now. I've been going for 45 minutes, and I said this was only going to be a half an hour. So I'm going to try to end a little bit soon, but we still have a lot to talk about. Let's talk with Bob Dylan before I forget. Kind of like with folk. At the time with Vietnam and everything going on with the government, Bob Dylan was a very good social singer. Without Bob Dylan, I feel like we wouldn't have a lot what we have now. And kind of like what Stephen Van was talking about. It's set the stage, but we don't have we do have people like that, but you could tell that like it's more of a social campaign, a PR thing, rather than what they truly feel. And some of them truly feel that way. You can see with how hard they work. But sometimes it is more of a social PR thing. But Bob Dylan was all about it. Like Blowing in the Wind. That might not be a proper song. I'll have to look. I almost got in trouble for playing real music there. I'm sorry. Like Don't Think Twice, It's Alright, and I was right. And Blowing in the Wind are some beautiful songs about perspective, and being and like actually having self thought and like view around the social awareness. Like I'm on the pavement thinking about the government. A lot of the songs he has is like smart to think about and socially aware. Going back to older people, Dee Dee Warwick, I like a lot her voice. There's a lot of old kind of talking like Black history with that. Alright, now we're going to go into real quick because we're almost out of time. Our favorite new albums. Personally, I'm a big fan of 21 Savage. That is because I actually do have a speech impediment. You could tell just by listening a little bit. So you could tell 21 Savage does too when he says stuff like brother or brother. Like if you can't say brother, because that's something I have a problem with the THs, that's a speech impediment. Now, I'm not a fucking doctor. I'm not going to be like 21 Savage got a speech impediment. But personally, it's something I always liked. Kind of like with Joe Biden. I remember growing up in high school, and when Joe Biden was a VP, they were like, oh, you have a speech impediment. When you have these things, it makes you feel like you could do it too. But we don't really need to talk about that right now. I'm not trying to be a rapper. Something I like about 21, he actually has a lot of street cred, and I kind of like this how he raps, how his beats, his voice. But to me, like his new album, American Dream, is amazing. And even though it's rap, it's not full R&B like Drake. It's a way better R&B album than Drake's new album. And some of the people he has on it and some of the songs he has on it is amazing. But one thing I wanted to talk about in 21 Savage is his social songs. He does have some, and they're some of the best songs I've ever heard. I know he probably has ghostwriters and all these guys helping him out, but Nothing New, I think it's from his first album, is great. I'm just gonna talk about some quotes and talk about why, like, to me, it's a lot like for modern changes and these modern rap songs, what's going on, talking about the communities, talking about these issues, and putting it in songs so people understand. And I'm saying that like in a way that like people do like talking about these issues, but it doesn't get tiring. But for these people, sometimes it's hard to understand, and it does get tiring. The first lyric in Nothing New is, "They thought I only rapped about murder and pistols. I'm trying to feed my family, I ain't being political." Now, I'm not trying to like armchair psychologist certain rap songs, but to me, that's a good opening to have an understanding of what he's trying to go about that song. You know, that like, oh, before this, 21 Savage went platinum before he signed to a major record label. He got lucky though. Metro Boomin, who's a great producer, great sound guy, great beat maker. Trust me, Kendrick knows about that, and Drake knows about that. And he has some issues of his own, Metro Boomin. But he got lucky that Metro Boomin was his good friend, Metro Boomin, from Atlanta, and he made his beats for him growing up young, and all of his growing up young, his newer music, and he still does now. But that helped him, to me, skyrocket in fame, getting platinum before he signed. But in that song, Nothing New, he talks a lot about past racism and how it affects modern people. And you can watch the doctors on CNN who talk about this, and there's other black doctors who know about their history. And it doesn't have to be a doctor. I'm saying like PhD and actual of a history of it, or even just black people overall will have a better understanding than us. But this next lyric is very deep to me. It's, "Anger in my jeans, they used to hang us up with ropes." So that's talking about certain things that white people used to do to black people back in the day. Sometimes have gatherings for it and make it a social event. That disgusts me, but this isn't going into too detail. We just need to have the understanding and the fact that just like with everyone, our past generations does push trauma onto us and like mental issues onto us. We have the same issues our grandparents, our parents do, because this is how genes and genetics work. So that talks a lot about how black people still have a lot of anger, misunderstanding towards the white man or the white people. I don't like to say white man like that because I'm not black. I can't talk like that, but the same. Because of our ancestors committing horrible acts on them. And like we have to have an understanding for that. Then right after that, he talks about civil rights came, so they flood the hood with coke. That is very deep about what was going on with the civil rights movement. That just like after slavery got legalized, they had Jim Crow. That no matter what we try to think we're giving them and what little breadcrumbs, it's all fake because we're always going to have something else against our throat. Because when civil rights came, we did do that. Certain people in our government that had that control helped them out. To me, it's interesting that one of the poorest communities could afford one of the most expensive drugs. Like, think about that. Like, this how it worked and how certain government groups pushed that for them to make their own money. It had to have been smart. They knew that civil rights was coming. They knew that if they did this, just like the next lyric that he says, that they treat us like slaves. So right after slavery, Jim Crow, then they locked us up in cages. Because of Jim Crow, because of segregation, and because of drugs, for war on drugs, we have always had our foot on their necks. And it's sad to me. It's something that needs to change. That these people will feel this way in music and talk about it, even in a rap song. Kind of like Tupac Changes, to me this is a rap song about real truth of the African American community and how they feel their past, their history, and their present. Stuff that we have to work on to repair that because it is our fault. It is, and it's not our personal fault, but it's our historical fault. It is our ancestral fault. People could say, oh, well, I had a poor farming family back in the day. It really doesn't matter because other races didn't have that because they weren't treated equal. in a country where our first line of a Bill of Rights is that all men are are created equal. To me, that's not right. And this isn't a politics show, but the ERA, Civil Rights Act, needed to get passed. The ERA needs to get passed. So we have in these words that it is true that all men and women, no matter of what race, sex, gender identity, identity, are created equal. Because that's the truth. Kind of like Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On." It's a song about perspective, and this is a little bit different because there's not a war going on. But for these communities, there are. There's been gang wars. There's war against white people. They've had against their whole life war against the police because they police them at higher rates than other areas, which isn't fair. So the amount of unequal treatment isn't fair. And this whole show isn't political, but with music, a lot of music is political, and we'll be talking about political music because sometimes that's the best for change. So we've been going for about 47 minutes now. I really hope you guys like the mic setup. I might keep this and I might push it down a little bit, but I kind of want it to be like an old radio show where you see my mic. Something I've talked about and talked with my friends about that I want to do with all these shows, and sorry for going off a tangent, is that I kind of don't like that even newer local shows that are new and actually don't have a good following, or like they spend a lot of money and they think that high quality is a good show, but that's not. It's disingenuous. Back in the day, you think Mad Dog had the best quality stuff? Maybe after he took the money, or sorry, Moondog. But that's just because I'm a Browns fan. Mad Dog and Moondog. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Oh, my friends will get that one. They didn't have the best quality. So when I was putting this show together, I did get a good new webcam. I got a new mic. I'm using a puff filter. But I got a retro mic. I got like stuff that like I feel like for better quality isn't always for better choice, because it's disingenuous. There's a reason why CNN national news looks so refined and local news looks good, but you could tell local news isn't refined as CNN. So why do all these up and comers, these local guys, like to look like CNN when they should be looking like local news? Like, not everyone needs to sound compressed. Just because you could do it doesn't mean it's good. And trust me, I get music, a bass compressor, it sounds good. But sometimes you kind of want people to sound like how you're talking to people, which is over a phone, over Discord, over Skype. Not like they're right in your ear in the most high quality compressed music ever, like you're listening to music, because we're not making music. We're making talk shows. We're making shows about music. And kind of going back with 21 Savage is Nothing New, Tupac's Changes, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. It's a song about self-reflection and reflection on their community and being realistic about why they're there, their past, and how to improve. And like we have to learn from that. So now I'm kind of going to talk about newer music that I like, and I kind of messed this up on my docket, but it happens. There's a busy day. Had to go shopping before this, you know how it is. Newer music that I like a lot of Weezer, My Chemical Romance, Gerard Way. I think is one of the best, smartest people ever. He's kind of like a modern Jerry Garcia, Carlos Santana, in a way of creativity and music. Weezer, I really like Blue Album, Pinkerton, Red, Gratitude. I've seen them a lot. They've changed a lot, like a lot of the other bands we're going to be talking about. I just don't want to make this an hour-long episode, but I pretty much will. And it's music. It's a Saturday. I'm relaxed. People could skip through it, not watch all of it. That's how it could be. If you guys have, once again, any comments, any recommendations, please feel free to drop them. The only thing I will say, like I said before, I'm sorry that we can't play music. Maybe I could find a way to pay like $15 a month to get like minor licenses. But it is very hard to play clips or get music because these copyright lawyers nowadays are crazy. And if we were living in England or Great Britain or the EU, it would be worse. But we live in a capitalistic place. They're going to want to make their money. I love bands like System of a Down, Rage Against the Machine. Two bands I got to see recently from the last 5 years that I consider amazing music. I've seen Carlos Santana with the Doobie Brothers. I love Carlos Santana. Samba Party is one of my favorite songs. Growing up, I got very blessed to have a good father and mother who loved different types of music. My mom loved Lauryn Hill, um, who I have in here. Louis Prima, a lot of that mob music, and different types of things. My dad loved Radiohead, Pearl Jam. These are great bands that I believe influence us for a long time. Maybe not till the end of time because of how things change. But even then, think about how I still like classical music. I still like Bach. I still love cellos and pipe organs. So we might get to a point where we'll always listen to that kind of music. And I'm happy, you guys, it's getting nicer outside. It is currently 57, 67 in Gerard. A little bit windy because of the temperatures change. Whenever we get that crazy temperature change, we'll get more wind because of how pressure works. Gotta throw that engineering fact in there. I want to talk a little bit about older punk versus new post 90s, early 2000s. You got guys stuff people like the Ramones, the Smiths, this beautiful music. Being a punk guy, I do like a lot of that stuff, and that's one thing that I always recommend of people in life and relationships. You shouldn't have a positive to your positive. You should have a yin to your yang, and that's also with music. And that's something that I love, and I'll shout out my girlfriend Brandy, is that she has a beautiful taste in music, and it's not mine, but I understand it, and I do like it. And it's hard because we're always so busy with life, but if I ever won the lottery, you'd bet your bottom dollar out of a day where we'll just be listening to music, going back and forth, and we do that sometimes, and something I wish we did more. And what I'm saying is with relationships, with your friends, even like friends relationships, you should have people that don't have the same views as you, don't have the same opinions as you. It makes you more creative. It makes you more understanding. It makes that mind work for more, just like in music. So like, the Smiths is a band I didn't know too much. My girlfriend introduced me to. Great band. Let's talk about some good bands. The Strokes. They're not as old as the Smiths, or maybe The Cure, who I also like to say. Porno Graffiti is a really good album. A lot of the old Cure albums are. There's some good emo in there. There's some good positive music in there. This song's good. Sunshine. Get a little bit nicer out. I'm gonna work on the garden today. I can't wait. I hope everyone has a good day. I want to talk a little bit about Arctic Monkeys. Is a band I love. Their first album is one of my favorite albums. Whatever you say, I am, I'm not. I think that's the album. Guy smoking a cigarette. I don't know if a lot of people notice, but the Arctic Monkeys have more #1 albums in Great Britain than the Beatles. Only reason why that is because they lasted longer than the Beatles and they put out more albums. I bet you if the Beatles put out 30 albums, sorry for hitting my mic, they would have had 30 #1s in Great Britain. But the Arctic Monkeys are a punk rock band. They've switched to a lot to be like indie, maybe alt rock. And it's good though. Their first 3 albums, and it might be their first 3 to 5 are punk. I like some of my favorite songs. And the British sound invasion kind of punk version of it. They like the Ramones, a lot of the guys back in the day. Sex Pistols, who I love. They get their influence from them. I'm from Rotham. Little Arctic Monkeys quote. I love that Ted Lasso. They put a lot of Arctic Monkeys music in there, and it's fantastic. Because modern Brits know that that's good music. I have friends in Britain. I used to have a lot of good ones. I understand how people love for Arctic Monkeys, and even people in America love the Arctic Monkeys. They do. Well, this is a good lo-fi one. Take a quick vape break. We'll probably go for another 5 minutes until we hit 3 p.m. I hope you guys all have a great day. Once again, if you've liked the show, if you like the conversations, please drop a comment, drop a like. I know it's hard to watch this show live for people, especially on the weekends, but we only like doing it live for 2 reasons. That if we ever get big and like people watch and people like watching shows live, we can communicate with a chat. 2, it instantly uploads a video to YouTube, so we don't have to edit. I know how to edit videos. I was editing videos in high school, like I said, with my broadcasting classes. It's just we don't have the time. A lot of us are full-time workers. I'm really hoping Trevor could make it tomorrow. If he can't, it's just going to be an introductory video and live stream for Our Healthy Life, so make sure you turn into that tomorrow at 2 p.m. We might have to change for time tomorrow. If I'm busy, I will let you guys know. So other newer albums, like we're talking about Arctic Monkeys into like Fakara album and the Hotel album, the newer albums, they become more vocal. So, and I've talked with coworkers about this that are geniuses when it comes to music. You can just tell how they are and how they go about themselves. Shout out, they know who they are. Um, but like going from punk to being more vocal, I like, and like I understand Alex Turner has a beautiful voice. He should do it. So people like we were saying before, even like Radiohead changed their whole sound. Pearl Jam a little bit. There's a lot. We can go on and on. People like Thundercat, I like a lot, having a different sound of bass. People like Miss Lauryn Hill and her Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is one of my favorite albums. Even though I'm not calling it brand new music, it's post 2000s, post 90s, post I Was Alive is how I like to go about it. We're gonna have older music because I like older music, even like 40s to 20s, even 20s to 90s. But we need a separation there, and even though we're for 2020s, a 30-year separation is good because for 60s I love the Beach Boys. I used to be in a Beach Boys cover band, playing bass and loving that Brian Wilson movie, and I feel bad for Brian Wilson and what he went through in his life to make music and what his manager put him through. One of my last bands, and this is perfect to end with, is Sublime. Sublime is a Latino group, some Latinos, Bradley Noel, Mexican Americans, my Chino brothers, Mexican Americans, like Cheech Chong, from LA, from California, Long Beach, baby. I like ska. I'll be honest, I like punk, and when you throw a little Rasta in there, it's good. Now, Sublime's not like Real Big Fish and some other ska bands that are straight trumpet in your ear. The more I listen to Sublime, they don't use trumpet that much, but they have for bass, they have for voice, and they're Spanish, so they give that Latino twist on it, a little. And if you listen to Sublime, you know what I'm talking about, that Latino LA gangbanger twist. One of their favorite songs from them, even though it's wrong, April 29th, 1992, it's actually April 26th, 1992, was the day that the officers that beat up Rodney King were acquitted and the start of the LA riots and riots around the world. No, not the world, but our country. We had riots even in Cleveland, in Akron, and this song talks a lot about it. It talks about being a minority and experiencing that foot on your neck as an African American or a Latino American, a Chicano, Chino, and how for them it was about taking the power back and kind of like with F the police, telling F the police, you guys have done this. You have shown that even being recorded, you will beat a minority. We're gonna do some messed up stuff too. And I'm being honest, you gotta understand, if you treat someone unhealthy, especially for years, decades of abuse, their reaction will be unhealthy. And you can't take the higher ground at that point and say, oh my God, why are you being unhealthy? It's because of how you treated them. Every reaction has an equal or greater reaction according to Isaac Newton. A lot of people need to learn physics, and some of these modern laws that we have, or theorems, that we go down our lives about, because to me, a lot of logic can be explained the same way. So that song, one of my favorite parts about the song talks about it at the end. It goes over all the cities that had riots, and just how many of them, and it's amazing to me. So if you have a time, listen to Sublime. So listen to April 29th, 1992. Sorry. And it's funny because I think there's only 28 days in April. But maybe April's not like February. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe there are 31. Or maybe sometimes 30. But Sublime has a lot of past influences in their music, like Dee Dee Warwick, NWA, ska and Rasta. There's a whole different stuff that you'll hear. And they even have albums that came out after Bradley Noel passed that explain it. They'll have the original song and the Sublime song. So, I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm a little bit long. I said I didn't want this to be an hour, but I'm a yapper. This is relaxing to me. I kind of feel like the more I go on with this kind of stuff, the more people enjoy. Learn about me, learn about my personality. I cannot wait to have co-hosts. I want to have people like my sister and my cousins that have great music views, different music views that we can go on about. One of these days, when my girlfriend's off on a Saturday, or maybe later on a Saturday, maybe Saturday nights, we'll have a late night music den. I want her view. She knows German and Dutch. People like Rammstein. I hope that's the band name. I actually like them. but it's kind of hard to listen to German music and not know German. I like Spanish music, Carlos Santana, Samba Pati, Oi Como Va, because I know Spanish a little bit and I grew up around that and I took Spanish in class. So once again, please drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Skip to any of the parts you like. It's a live video. It's long. It's an hour. I'm sorry. It's double the long I said. This first week I learned a lot. Like today we had problems with our background because of how OBS is sometimes. It just glitzes out. It glitzes out for background of Spotify music like we didn't have for the first 5 minutes. You gotta restart stuff on OBS. I'm just happy how it looks. I've watched a lot of people locally and even nationally. Young Turks I'm a big fan of. Like I said, I'm a progressive in a new show. I do have some moderate views. This is chill to me. This isn't nothing too crazy. It's just relaxed. It has a good overlay for news and sports shows. Educate you. This will relax you. I tried to find like Billboard 200s, top 100s. It's hard to throw overlays sometimes that have ads and like pop-ups on the websites. So I'll try to get better at that. Maybe we'll find something different. Or what I really could do is I could take a screenshot, live view of like for Spotify and put that at the bottom so you know what lo-fi songs we're listening to. And these are all copyright free according to Spotify, so we should be okay. Once again, it's a beautiful day, 69 out now. Yeah, I know high, a little bit windy because like I said, because of the weather. Hopefully it'll get better and not be too rainy today. Hopefully everyone enjoying your Saturday. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for coming to the show. I really appreciate it. Once again, drop a like, drop a sub, drop a comment if you have constructive feedback. Feedback is a gift. Talk about what I talked about today. Talk about what you like about the music I talked about today. Music that you think goes with it, or music on your own. Music is a beautiful thing that like I personally feel like helps us out so much mentally and with our everyday lives. I'm gonna quit yapping.